Welcome to our second meeting. My name is Nancy Lopez. I'm the Family Engagement Resource Teacher for the district. This is our second class that we will have, that we're having. The next two classes will be next week and then the following week. Same time, 8:15, and same room, okay? So thank you for being here. Our agenda, we will do a welcoming, we'll do an icebreaker like we did last time to get to know each other a little better. We'll talk a little bit about what worked well from the last meeting. And then we will talk about the essential standard for this class, which is letters and sounds. I'll do a little modeling of what that activity will look like, and then I'll give you a chance to practice that. And then at the end, we'll just do a recap and then a summary on what to look forward to when you do this at home, okay? So before I actually do this, the icebreaker, I know you both were here last time, but a little bit about myself. I was a classroom teacher for 13 years over at Sac City Unified, and I mainly taught in primary, so in kinder, first grade. And that's where most of my teaching experience came from. And then I came on over here to Oak Grove as the Family Engagement Resource Teacher. So I do a lot of the family engagement events. These classes I also do at other school sites. And so anything that has to do with family engagement, I support the district with. Okay. I also have two daughters. I have an adult daughter, and then I have a little 4-year-old. So last time we met, we did a read aloud on Too Many Tamales, and we did a modeling of what, the strategies. So today the class is about letters, about letter recognition and letter sounds, okay? So when I say letter recognition, what does that mean? What does letter recognition mean? When the teacher says, oh, your child can recognize, 20 out of 52, what does that mean? This knowing the sounds? Okay, yeah. Yeah, those are all right. So letter recognition is being able to know the name of the letters. And the key thing about this is that they're not in order, okay? So one of the first things that children will learn is the alphabet song. And that's great. That's a good start because then they know, that the song. But then the next level would be actually knowing the letter name in isolation. So showing a child the letter, K, knowing that that's a K. And also knowing that the K by uppercase K and like a lowercase K. So knowing that they're two letters. So when we assess students, it's not just 26 letters, it's actually 52 letters because each letter counts as one, okay? So when we assess students, for the most part, we'll give them, all the letters mixed around and showing them each letter at a time and knowing that each letter has a name. And then attaching a sound to it would be the next, the next step for that, okay? So why is letter identification important or recognition? It's the building block to oral language. So when they're learning the letters and the sounds, it helps with their oral language. It's a symbolic representation because each letter has a name and has a sound, and eventually they're going to put those together to sound out and read words. It's part of early literacy. Once they know the letters, they'll start attaching the sounds to them. And letter names and sounds is the best predictor for their future reading abilities and skills. Okay, so it's important for kindergarten. It's probably one of the most important part of kinder is knowing those letters and those sounds. And then high frequency words, which we'll talk about in the next class, but that's, and then also oral blending. So knowing those letters and the sounds is what, is the building block, is what we say, of early literacy. So what does it look like to do different types of letter recognition and letter sounds, okay? So here's a little chart, and then all this chart is showing is they have all the letters, uppercase and lowercase, and then it's just cutting out letters. So this is just, again, like like a basic, recognizing letters, recognizing that these are letters. So if we back up a little bit too, like maybe like in preschool or even 2, 3 years old, we also need to let them know that these are letters and that numbers are numbers and shapes are shapes. Okay, so even just doing like a sort of that. But this one right here is already kind of knowing that these all are letters, and then we can put them, according to where they belong. Okay. This one over here is, remember I was telling you about having the letters in isolation? So randomly knowing the letter name, and do you see how there's a lowercase and then there's uppercases? So having them by themselves. A lot of times, they're always together, like the uppercase and the lowercase are together, but we also want to separate those so that they know that each letter has a letter name. This one, I love using the fly swatters because we can use those for so many things, and it encourages the movement, and little kids need to move a lot. So here just, and this is really simple, you just get a piece of paper and you write all the letters, and then as they read the letters, they hit the letter, okay? So again, it just encourages and promotes the movement. And this is just, the puzzles, when you find the puzzles and putting all those letters together. Again, it's helping them find the letters, and even though I say they should be in random order, this is a good way for them to practice looking for the letter and putting them in order, because this is a more difficult task of finding the letter and knowing what comes next, okay? And then once, I don't want you to feel that you have to just, when you practice with your child, just the letter names. Go ahead and attach that sound. A lot of times children will pick up the sound before they even pick up the letter name, because the sound, it's almost like how do I say this? It's more musical, I think, and so then that's why they pick up the sound sometimes before they even pick up the letter name. So doing both is fine, okay? So here's just a little bit more advanced example. So here, they have to actually know that these words start with those letters. And we're going to do something similar to this. This is a little bit different. This is more of an environmental print, but also knowing that, like for example, my daughter, one of the first things she recognized as we were driving was Starbucks. So she knew by looking at the sign that that was a Starbucks. And so that we call environmental print. So it's it's symbols that children will recognize. So like Target, or Walmart, they'll know that that's a Walmart and that's Target because of the symbol. And that's reading to children. So we just want to acknowledge that, oh yeah, you're reading that sign. But you can do something similar with that too, and then attaching, the letter with the first letter of those symbols or those environmental prints. And then this again is like another book too. Again, this is something we're going to practice right now, is finding images that start with that letter, okay? Any questions with these examples? These are all things, that we can do at home, and it doesn't, require too much of, we don't need to get fancy with kids. Anything that involves them cutting or little books like this, they love because it's just more meaningful to them. Okay, so what I brought today is a book. It's a little ABC book, and this is just the example, but I'll give you a blank one to work on right now. So here I have 3 different levels. Okay, so just depending on where your child is, I'll give you 3 different stages, and then you'll decide where your child is. So for this first one right here, it's just cutting out letters that start with that letter page. Okay, so here it's just different A's and just putting them on the pages. So if your child is just a beginning stage of letter recognition, we can start there. This next one is finding words or names that begin with that letter. So here I have August, and then Annie's and Aquafina. Just so that they see when they're looking at the images, like, oh, that starts with the letter A, okay? So that's this part right here. And then this one is a little bit more advanced. This is actually knowing that this begins with the letter A. So this one, they would have to kind of know that, what the letter A, what the sound is, okay? Now, you can do all three of these if you feel like, I think my child can do this, or you can just start with the cutting out the letters in isolation and just putting them on here. If they are not able to actually write the entire word, that's okay. Maybe just starting with like the letter A, or letting them sound out. If they're already here and they're sounding out the word, let them sound it out. And then the other thing too is let them sound out and write it phonetically, okay? I know that for a lot of people it's like, but that's not spelling it right. Should we tell them how to actually spell it? For little kids, I would say just let them use their sounds. So like apple, if we go, everyone say apple. Apple. Okay, and then stretch that sound out. So it's a, p, o. So how do you think a child would write that using sounds? So the first letter would probably be A for a, and then P would probably be P, and then O. Yeah, so they might just write apple with 3 letters. If it makes sense to them and they're using those sounds, that's okay. Okay. I mean, we don't want that to happen when they're in, 3rd grade or 4th grade. At that point, like, they should know how to write the word apple. Another thing you might want to do if you feel like, okay, I think my child is ready to see the correct way, is pointing it out. So like if it's on the grocery store ad, just telling them, oh, apple is written here. Okay, find it and see if you can find it, and then they'll see. Rather than us telling them how to spell it, because then they'll become dependent on us, and they'll always ask, how do you spell this? How do you spell this? And it will never come from them, okay? So if they're using their sounds, that's okay. Let them write their sound. Let them write the word phonetically, okay? Any questions with that part? No? Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and pass out the bags. In your bag, I included the sounds and spelling cards that the district uses for the curriculum that we use, which is Wonders. So your kinder teacher should have given you this. Or if you've also noticed, it's also, this classroom doesn't have it, but it's usually up on the wall. So these are the same cards that they use, okay? So that's one of the things that I will encourage you to do is if you show your child, let's just say the letter F, like in isolation, if you show them, okay, what letter is this? And they don't know that letter, have them go back and find it. Okay, so one of the things that I do with my 4-year-old is if she doesn't know, like I said, the letter F, I'll say, okay, go through the alphabet and stop at this letter. So then she'll go back and she'll go A, B, C, D, E, F. So then it's her, she's finding the letter rather than me telling her. Because they should, how I was telling you about the song, the alphabet song, how most children will learn that. Having them go through that and then finding it. Another thing too is having them point to each letter as they're singing so that they hear and they're pointing and they're looking at the letter. Okay, so that's another way of practicing the letter recognition. So that's in your bag. And then I always include the instructions. So if they go to grandma's house or babysitter's house, they'll have on how to do the book. And then I also included a glue stick and scissors. Today we can use the ones that are in the baskets, and then these you can take home. But we'll use the ones there so that you're not, you don't use the glue sticks, the new ones. So what I want you to do is I also brought the grocery store ads. So I want you to cut a couple of pictures. Just randomly cut pictures, or if you want to, start with the letter A page like I did, you can also do that. But just cut different pictures. That way when you do go home and you're showing your child the book, you already have a start on some of these pictures, okay? You don't need to go in order you don't need to go A, B, C, D, if you want, again, cut a couple pictures, ask them, what is this? And then, if you happen to cut, pear, oh, it's pear. Well, what letter does pear start with? And they say, oh, it's P. So then they can find the letter P and then, glue the picture on that letter P. If you cut just letters out, also asking them, well, what letter is this? And then having them find it, okay? Some children I know are very structured. And so I know I have heard that some children do want to go letter by letter by letter, and that's okay. Just letting them pick how they want to do it is fine, okay? So any questions on what we're going to do? No? So yeah, so cut out as, I know with, like, if you can ask, your children to help you with this. So I'll go ahead and pass out the bags. Okay. Entonces, por ejemplo, si ellos dicen, okay. Yeah. Okay, I'll go ahead and have you stop so that we can share out. So on the first page on her book, she cut out water for A because in Spanish it's agua. And so agua starts with the letter A. So I do want to encourage you that if your child knows it in Spanish and they say, oh, that's agua, agua starts with the letter A, to let them use that because that's how they know what that is. And in Spanish, a lot of the letters and the sounds are pretty similar. So as long as they know what that letter, what it starts with, then go ahead and let them use that word. My daughter, for the longest time, cucumber, she knew it as pepino. And so she would, when she would say, oh, that's pepino, that's a pepino. And so not until like later on she found out, in English that it's cucumber. So it's okay. Let them use how they know it, okay? Anything else? What did you do?
Leche.
Leche, milk, good.
Naranjas. Oranges, naranjas.
Yeah. So then, yeah, with all those pictures you cut out, you can just show your children, like, okay, let's see, what is this? Or what do you think this is? And then asking them, well, what does it start with? And then going into your book and having them glue that, okay? If your child is ready to write the words, how like I have it right here, let them do that too. If they're not, it's okay. You can always go back when they are ready. So if you finish the book and they have all those pictures in there, go back to the book and then just now start having them write those words in, okay? Any other questions with this? Or comments or something that, that you think, oh, I don't know if this is, or something else that you can do? The grocery store ads, I usually just start collecting them as they come in the mail. Like I have a bag in my car, and every time I go to the mailbox, I usually drive up to the mailbox, and then I just start putting all those grocery store ads in there. Or when I go to the grocery store, I'll pick up, a couple. And then right now, during this time, most stores will come out with like a Christmas catalog of toys. So that's another good one to save. And you can use, the way I would use that in the classroom is I would put those in a basket, all those catalogs, like the Target, catalogs. And I would then I would put writing paper and pencils, and the scissors and the glue, and the students would cut out the pictures and write, or do a list of the toys they wanted, or, a letter to Santa. It's just a way to encourage them to write, and they get really excited, over things like that. So that's just another thing we can do with our children. So with this, just to kind of recap, what will we help our children with at home with this activity? Just to kind of recap, what is it that we're talking about? So I know it's fun for them, but what is it that we're encouraging them to practice? Yeah, letters with pictures, yeah, and the sounds too, yeah. Good. And how many times a week do you think you can do this at home, this activity? Taking into account, their homework and activities? Yeah, 2 to 3 times a week. Good. Yeah. Don't have them sitting for like 30 minutes every day doing this. It's just, encouraging them to whenever they want to. Good. Okay, I know this was kind of it wasn't as long as the last class because this was just a little bit more, I guess practical maybe I would say. So this is pretty much it for this class, unless you have any other questions. So thank you for being here. I really appreciate you coming and learning new ways to help your children at home. Thank you.
and welcome to a spine-chilling, spine-tickling episode of Lord. I built a fort. Come on in. I promise I won't bite. No, Max, come back. I was just kidding. It's just a joke, Max. Max. Come on. One of my favorite places to read a book is in my fort. In the dark. Just sets the mood and gets me all spooked out. I'll tell you one thing. You don't want to read a scary story without one of these. I love my flashlight. It's so awesome. I mean, you never know what's there. A flashlight is a kid's best friend. It's a monster killer, let me tell you. Turns them into pixie dust, just like that. I said monsters, didn't I? Like mummies and Dracula and Frankenstein and the Invisible Man and stuff like that. It's really hard to read in the dark, you know. Really hard. So I'm gonna turn on the light. It's not like I was scared or anything, you know. I'm a grown-up. But I never read a scary book by myself. So I have Bite, my pet alligator. Don't be scared. You're gonna love the book I'm gonna show you guys. It's called I Need My Monster. What if your monster took a vacation? I mean, the one that's under your bed or in your closet or in the toilet, wherever your monster lives. Some are aquatic, you know. Well, what if he went fishing? Or she went to get a manicure? I mean, what would you do? What would keep you in bed? That's what the author and illustrator of I Need My Monster tried to solve. It's a terrible problem. You're gonna love this book. So here it is, I Need My Monster, written by Amanda Knoll, illustrated by Howard McWilliam. Published by Flashlight Press. How perfect is that? Tonight, when I looked under the bed for my monster, I found this note instead. Gone fishing, back in a week. Gabe. What was I gonna do? I needed a monster under my bed. How was I supposed to get to sleep if my monster was gone? I tried to sleep, but it wasn't the same without Gabe. I missed his ragged breathing, his nose whistling, the scrabbling of his uncut claws. How would I ever get to sleep without Gabe's familiar scary noises and his spooky green ooze? It was no use. Gabe would be gone for a week and I just had to have a monster. I climbed quietly out of bed so my parents wouldn't hear me. Grown-ups have some strange ideas about monsters under beds. I knocked on the floorboards, then scrambled back under my covers. I waited nervously. Would a new monster appear? What would he be like? Would his snorting be as cheerful as Gabe's? You'll have to read the book to find out. Will Gabe come back? I don't know. You know what I do want to know? What's your favorite scary book? Come on, scary. Whoa.
The scariest book I've read. The book that chills my bones. The scariest book I've ever read.
The Bogart.
Coraline.
Skeleton Man.
Wait Till Helen Comes by Mary Downing Hahn.
Among the Hidden by Margaret Peterson Haddock.
Something Upstairs by Yavi.
In this book, a little unhappy girl meets a ghost who is similar to her, but the ghost tries to kill her.
It's about this man who has already died and now is a ghost who teases people for fun.
It's about a girl who gets haunted by her cousin's ghost. The book is about a girl that has a green ribbon around her neck and she never takes it off. This is about two kids who go to a cemetery and get chased by ghosts. Read this book to see if she survives. You should check it out. You should check it out. Check it out.
Scary stories are great. I love them. The only thing I love more is a snack like s'mores with a scary story by the campfire. Boogity boogity. Would you like to hear a spooky one? I love this story. A long time ago, because all scary stuff happens a long time ago, there was a man. He was walking down a lonely country road. It was late at night. It was dark except for a fingernail moon up in the sky. He could hear the rustling of things, the snapping of twigs, the hooting of owls. He had this odd feeling he was being followed. That ribbon of road got narrower, and he glanced over his shoulder, and there it was. He was right, he'd heard it. A coffin was following him down the road. The man began to walk faster, and the coffin sped up. And then the man began to run, and the coffin began to chase him. He leapt over a fence, and the coffin leapt over a fence. He picked his way through the stones in a graveyard, and the coffin followed the very same route behind him. He saw an old house. He beat on the door. No one answered. Finally, he pushed the door open. The coffin was a few feet away. He raced down the hall. He found the bathroom. When he reached the bathroom, the coffin came into the bathroom, and then he saw the cabinet. The bathroom cabinet. He opened it up. He pulled out a cough drop, and he threw it at the coffin. And the coffin stopped. What are you looking at? I don't write him, I just tell him. I think I'll just eat my s'mores while you guys learn about a cool new book. Want some? Here you go, bite. Take a bite.
Today I'm going to tell you about a cool new book. It is called Wonderstruck by Brian Selznick. Do you see it? How long do you think it would take you to read this book? How long do you think?
Almost a week.
A week? What do you think?
3 days.
3 days, wow. You guys are pretty good. You know, I have to tell you the truth. It only took me 2 days to read this book, but I have a secret to show you. What do you see?
Picture.
Yes, this is a picture book. Now, really, it's sort of a hybrid of 2 different kinds of books. It's sort of part picture book and part what you might call a chapter book or a novel, right? Both together. But the difference is that the pictures in this book don't like go along with the story or illustrate the story. They are the story. Do you understand? You have to look at each picture by themselves real carefully to get in the right order and get the story. But actually, in this book, there's 2 stories going on at the same time. First of all, there is a story about a boy who is from Gunflint Lake, Minnesota in June 1977. Okay, that's one story. And there is another story about a girl from Hoboken, New Jersey, October 1927. Now, the boy's story is told in words, but the girl's story is told in pictures, okay? And they go back and forth between each story until the very end. They kind of converge together, and the stories and the pictures all become one, and they all start to make sense. Well, he's looking out the window, and he can see his house right down the road, right? It's the middle of the night because, you know, he's woke up thinking about his mom, and there's a storm going on, right? Okay, that's where I'm going to pick up, okay? A sudden streak of light interrupted Ben's memory. Wide-eyed, he watched from the ledge of Robbie's window as a shooting star blazed between the clouds and disappeared. He made a wish about his mom, one that he knew could never come true. Ben hadn't realized how tightly he'd been gripping the seashell turtle until he felt it digging into his skin. He almost cried out, but he caught himself, not wanting to wake up Robbie again. That's when Ben noticed something very strange. In the black silhouette of his house, 83 steps away, a light had come on. The curtains in his mom's room glowed a bright yellow. Ben stared in disbelief. Feeling dizzy, he placed the turtle in the box, locked it, and tucked it back under his cot. His heart was pounding as he put on the old tank top and slid into his sneakers without bothering to lace them up. He grabbed the red flashlight and slipped silently out of his cousin's house. And then it goes to the pictures. Now you have to look at each picture, because each picture is a story. Is that enough to make you wonder what's going to happen in the story?
Yes.
What kind of things do you wonder about now? What are some questions you wonder?
If maybe he's seeing his mom, but she's really dead though.
How could that be? What else do you wonder about? Think about all the things I've told you about so far. What are some other things you wonder about?
Why the girl is running away.
That's right, you thought about the pictures. What do you think about the pictures you saw?
It said, help me.
It said, help me. Why is she running away? Why is she running away?
Maybe she was the one who went into the house and did the same
You
thing.
guys got a lot of good wondering going on here, but I'm not going to tell you any of the answers to any of your wonders. You're going to find all of that out when you read Wonderstruck by Brian Selznick.
Well, that was a cool new book. But you know what? All this reading makes me so tired. Mike and I are going to take a little nap while you go see and hear about an oldie but a goodie. I'm the oldie. He's the goodie.
Hi, I'm Dr. Elaine Whitney, and I don't know about you, but after so many scary stories, I'm ready for a good, comfy book. My favorite oldie but a goodie is the book Corduroy by Don Freeman. It's a wonderful book, and I hope you will enjoy it. It's the story of a little bear who lost a button and found a friend. Corduroy is a bear who once lived in the toy department of a big store. Day after day, he waited with all the other animals and dolls for somebody to come along and take him home. The store was always filled with shoppers buying all sorts of things, but no one ever seemed to want a small bear in green overalls. Then, one morning, a little girl stopped and looked straight into Corduroy's bright eyes. "Oh, Mommy," she said, "look, there's the very bear I've always wanted." "Not today, dear," her mother sighed. "I've spent too much already. Besides, he doesn't look new. He's lost the button to one of his shoulder straps." Corduroy watched them sadly as they walked away. "I didn't know I'd lost a button," he said to himself. "Tonight, I'll go and see if I can find it." So to see if Corduroy found his button and found a friend, you'll have to read Corduroy yourself by Don Freeman. It's a wonderful book. I hope you enjoy it. And now, let's go back to Carmen and see how she's enjoying her nap.
Did you hear that? Did you hear that? Great balls of fire! Whoa! Oh, Max, jumping Jehoshaphat, you scared me half to death. What a great way to end the show. That was my dog, Max. Thanks for spending some spooky time with me. I hope I see you next time. Until then, go make friends with a good book. Boogity boogity.
Home Fix-It channel. Welcome back to Love That Book. You're in the right place. Today's show, I think you're gonna love it. It's about ideas, ding, and imagination, and how little things can turn into big things in a good way. Take this project I'm working on. I'm building a library. Well, it's not really my library. It's part of another program called the Little Free Libraries. Think of a birdhouse, only bigger. You paint it, you stock it with books, and you put it in a public place. And then, shazam! People come, they take a book, they leave a book, and it's a little free library. Brilliant, huh? And they're popping up all over the globe, from Wisconsin to Nigeria, and now to our very own Love That Book. I'm so excited. Oh, hi, Hannah, just in time.
Hey, Carmen, so is this the project you were telling me about?
Yes, isn't it wonderful?
I'm sure it will be, but right now it just looks like a few pieces of blank wood.
That's the beauty of it. A few pieces of blank wood and a little imagination, and the possibilities are endless.
You may see endless possibilities, but I still see a whole lot of nothing. Maybe you should have called Katie over. She's a lot more creative than I am.
Oh, for heaven's sakes, Katie is wonderfully creative, but so are you. Hannah, I happen to believe everyone has a little bit of artist in them. You don't believe me? I'll prove it to you. Come with me.
To your library?
Yes, to my library. That library. That one's not quite done yet. This was one of my girls' favorite books. It's called The Dot by Peter H. Reynolds, and it's published by Candlewick Press. It's about a little girl who doesn't think she's an artist. Art class was over, but Vashti sat glued to her chair. Her paper was empty. Vashti's teacher leaned over the blank paper. Ah, a polar bear in a snowstorm, she said. Very funny, said Vashti. I just can't draw. Her teacher smiled. Just make a mark and see where it takes you. Vashti grabbed a marker and gave the paper a good strong jab. There! Her teacher picked up the paper, studied it carefully, and said, She pushed the paper toward Vashti and quietly said, Now, sign it. Pretty soon, Vashti is making dots on lots of pieces of paper. And by the time the school art show comes along, they're starting to get really interesting. And then a little boy shows up and looks at them and says, Oh, golly, I wish I could draw.
Really? Dots made it to the school art show?
You haven't seen the dots. So what do you say? Are you ready to make your mark?
Vashti made it seem so simple and fun. I'm ready to give it a try.
All right, great. Come on.
So where do we start?
Well, whenever we're working with tools, with this. And now, let's see, if you'll stop where I left off right here.
Okay. Align the back with the sides. Be sure the angled edge is toward the top.
Right.
And if you bring that up.
Okay, yes.
Yep.
Thank you.
Perfect.
All right, now, if you hand me the hammer to put it over there in that box.
It's not hard to do. You just use your mind and think it through. It's your imagination. Everyone has one. You do too. You just gotta keep trying. The fun is in the journey and not just the ending.
Yay!
I wish I could come up with an idea like this.
Me too.
Where do ideas like this come from anyway?
Oh, golly. They come from all kinds of places, from your imagination, from things you've seen or read, sometimes things you dream, and sometimes where you least expect them.
Where do ideas come from?
Tom got an idea one day while daydreaming under a tree. The idea started with a question he asked himself. His first thought worked, but it also hurt. Tom ate the apple and wondered how not to get hit by falling apples. He took out his guitar and began to play. Music often gave Tom good ideas. Then Tom took out a sketchbook and began drawing his ideas. His idea worked. Tom now has delicious apples without all the headache. Where will your ideas come from?
I think I've come up with a couple ideas of my own. Do you mind if I come back tomorrow?
I'd love to have you come back tomorrow. In fact, that's a great idea. But seriously, we'll have this done in no time. And speaking of time, I believe it's time to check out a cool new book.
Cool new book.
Welcome back. Hannah just called. She has some great ideas for decorating the little library tomorrow. Like I said, everybody has a little bit of an artist in them. And that leads me right to Frederick, one of my all-time favorite children's book artists. Frederick is a mouse. In the book, Frederick by Leo Leone, well, is about how artists change the world. Read you just a little bit. All along the meadow where the cows grazed and the horses ran, there was an old stone wall. In that wall, not far from the barn and the granary, a chatty family of field mice had their home. But the farmers had moved away, the barn was abandoned, and the granary stood empty. And since winter was not far off, the little mice began to gather corn and nuts and wheat and straw. They all worked day and night, all except Frederick.
Frederick, why don't you work?
They asked.
I do work,
Said Frederick.
I gather sun rays for the cold, dark winter days.
And when they saw Frederick sitting there staring at the meadow, they said,
And now, Frederick, I gather colors,
answered Frederick simply.
for winter is gray.
At the end, one of my favorite bits in children's literature, they look at him and say, "Oh, Frederick, you're a poet." And he beams back and says, "I know it." Frederick is, like I said, a brilliant little character, and he's an artist. And maybe today's show sparked the artist in you. Maybe there's a Frederick or a Vashti or a Leo Leone just waiting to break out. Remember, art can be as simple as a dot. So go out and make your mark with your family, with the neighborhood, with your friends, with your dog. Hi, George. See you next time on Love That Book.